Hello and welcome to an Everyday Canines video. In this episode of the Beginner's Agility series, I want to talk to you about tunnel basics. How do we start teaching a tunnel? Now, sometimes people go and they go, oh, my dog, there's a tunnel in the garden, my dog runs through it. Fine, that's excellent. And yes, sometimes they do. But an awful lot of the time we actually need to build up a good foundation of tunnel behaviour, not just by letting them randomly go through it and wander through it. We actually want to build it up as a proper exercise, like everything else we do. So when I'm starting on tunnels, ideally I'd have a shorter tunnel. Something like this, which would be 2 meters, would be ideal. But I've got this length of tunnel, and most people have a longer tunnel to begin with. When you're teaching this, if you're teaching this completely on your own, it is difficult. No bones about it. You know, I tried teaching Magpie this on my own, and I actually found it really difficult. I ended up having to get a helper to assist me, and once I had that helper, it didn't take many sessions, and then I could go back to working on my own. The reason being for that, you imagine your dog has got to go through this dark enclosed space. Well, it's not dark today, but, you know, because this is a bright yellow tunnel. I mean, the reason I picked bright yellow is because it is bright, but some tunnels are black or dark coloured, and you know, they're like this dark little hole of Calcutta, and they're looking in it, and okay, this is nice and straight so they can see through the end, but they're going, do I want to? And because if you're here trying to get them to go through, they're going to go, do I? So I'm going to give you some ideas of how we can build up the foundation for a good tunnel, positive tunnel behaviour. I'm going to show you how you could do it on your own, and then we'll look at how we do it, which I prefer at the initial stage to have someone else helping, and I'll show you how you do that. Now, if you have got a really long tunnel, the question is, what do you do about it? Now, years ago, what you would do is you'd bunch it all up and make it small, which seemed a really good idea. Until it was pointed out that by doing that, what happens is all the little ridges form these little sharp little holes, because they're all squished up, they get this concertina effect, and your dog could catch a foot in them and hurt itself. And you're like, oh yeah, that's kind of obvious. So what people might suggest is bunch it up, but put something on it, like something through it, like a rug or something, so they don't do that. If you look at Casey specifications these days, for shows or anything, the tunnel always has to be at full stretch, at the minimum ridge amount, because if you look, there's minimum ridges, and that is for the same reason. The same reason, any sort of bunching creates these little ridges which the dog could put its foot in and catch. So I personally prefer not to do that with the tunnel. I prefer not to bunch it up, and I work with the shortest tunnel I've got. If you have got a really, really long tunnel, what I would suggest you do is there's a couple of things you could do. You could look at doing something like get a big box, you cut off the end flaps, so you imagine you've now got effectively like a tunnel, like you do a tunnel, like you're building kids a tunnel, don't you? You know, you've got a tunnel. What you need to make sure though is at the bottom, again, cardboard is slippery, so you need to put something along the bottom, something that's a bit non-slip, like a bath mat, or I tell you what, carpet tiles work quite well for this, because they're nice and get the really firm ones, they're grippy, and you can stick them, if you get the self-adhesive ones, stick them to the bottom of the cardboard, and now you've got a tunnel. And that's you can start that off as a foundation. No reason to not start off as a foundation. You're teaching your dog, okay, it's not round, but you're teaching your dog to go through something where there's a covering over their head, and we can play that. You can do it other ways. You can teach them to go under chairs. That's another way of teaching them that something's over their head. I'm now doing some stuff with Sparrow because she started doing scent work, and she was a bit worried about doing searches underneath things. So I'm getting out any object I can find in the house, like a little table or something, and just getting her to go under it. Again, learning that your head goes under something. So that is one way you can start. Now, if you then come to a tunnel and you've got a longish tunnel and you're on your own, what can you do? Well, what we could do is we could have some sort of toy or something that our dog really, really likes, or treat or something. If you've got one of those manners minders, which you've got the buttons on, they work, we'd put it here, and we'd put it almost on top of the tunnel, not quite, because we want them to actually come out of the tunnel, and then we'd get the dog. Pi, can I demonstrate with you? She's got a harness on, that's ideal harness on. She's got a harness with a great big handle on, I like these. Right, so we'd bring the dog up to the tunnel, right up, feet in, and we say, do you see that? What? I know there's nothing there. You see that? What? And then we'd release the dog to the toy. And the hope is they wouldn't jump in and then come out and round. And that's what can happen, and what happened with her a lot. She'd run through it, and then the next time I'd think she's got it, and then she'd just pop out and come back around. that's one way you could do it on your own, and you might have complete success with that. Brilliant. If you do, that's absolutely fantastic. Not my ideal, because you are using a lure. But then again, my other method is kind of a lure as well. So, but that is one way to do it. I did try shaping with magpie on a tunnel, but with this length of tunnel it doesn't work. If I had a small tunnel, like a metre tunnel, I could shape it just like I shaped the jump, because I could have her going through and I could drop the treats, but I can't do that on this length. So I had to rule that idea out and try a different method. Okay, so that's method one. If you're completely on your own, you're stuck. That's just to build up your basic foundation of running through a tunnel. Tunnel is good. Tunnel is great. I run through it, I get a reward. That's all we do. Once dogs get the idea, tunnels are pretty self-rewarding. So it usually doesn't take too long. So then you can start moving the dog back and building up a bit of distance, seeing if the dog really got value. But the second method, I need an assistant. So I've got an assistant now. He's stood at the end of the tunnel with sausage. Come here, Pi Pi. And Pi Pi knows he's got sausage, which is always a good thing. So now what we need to do is make sure Pi Pi goes through the tunnel. So I'm going to have her pretty close there. Now Pi Pi does know what a tunnel is, so this is kind of taking a back step with her. But imagine you've got a puppy that doesn't. They'd have him right in the tunnel, looking at the person. Go get it! And go get the treat. So that's how we begin. If you've been to a training class, that's probably how they begin. I know. Now having a handle on the harness really helps. Ready, go. She is quite fast, Nick, so she will run past you. Right, so once we've done that a few times and we've got the dog going, you probably have one session doing that. You'd have it, you on different sides when do that. Build up a bit of distance, so we can do things from a distance. Do you want to see if we do from a distance? Okay, ready? Yeah, good. Okay, so now what I would do is get the assistant out of the way. They're still there, dog still knows they're there, but this time they're going to throw in the toy with a bit of sausage in it. Because we want to get them out of the picture pretty quick. So the dog, I know. Are you excited? Because tunnels are the best thing ever. Yeah, are they the best thing ever? We want him out of the picture pretty quick so that Pi Pi isn't, good girl, isn't looking at him as a part of this exercise. She hasn't got to have him there to do the tunnel. Going to have her here. Now, I'm not saying any words at this point, because at this point I just want her to pick this object. So I'm not giving any verbals very much, apart from any go on in or go, something like that to release her. Okay. Now, that is completely what I expected her to do, because now the person's there. So you might have to bring her a bit closer. Okay, ready, go. Yeah, good girl. That is completely because she realises he's the one with the reward, so I run to him. So now we're saying to you, yes, you run to him, but you have to do it through the tunnel. So this is just that next step. And this, you can see now how if you kept, good girl, to that luring for too long, they'd become fixated on it, and then you'd have trouble. So, okay, now she's got the idea. I'll take her back a bit. Now this is a lot further than you'd take back. You'd work back in gradual steps, but see what you can do. Ready, go. See, cheating again. Because again, she thinks the game is, she's a dog that knows what tunnels are, but I'm not using a tunnel word. Pi Pi. Because I'm showing you to you. And so she's wondering. Now if I use the tunnel word, she should get it. Ready? Tunnel, tunnel. Oh, see? Listen. Tunnel, tunnel, tunnel. Good girl. So you see, even she's an experienced dog, but because she's got someone there and she's never trained with Nick before like that, and we usually train here completely alone, so she's going, oh, that's strange. And he's now in a different place, and isn't I just run to him for the reward? So it's really good to see this, to show you what can happen. Okay, tunnel, tunnel, good girl. So I am using my word because she needs it, because just to be fair to her, she's reached the stage in her training that if I don't say the tunnel word, she shouldn't go in a tunnel. So I'm being a little bit unfair if I don't say it, but you would just be getting your dog to aim for the tunnel and run through initially. So this is looking really good. I've worked on this side, I would have to work on the other side as well, but she's starting to look really good. She's getting the idea. Pi Pi. Ready, ready, tunnel, tunnel, tunnel. Good girl. So you can see how you're building up. You're getting that they're getting that assistant out of the way pretty quick. The next stage is obviously we want to move the handler even further. Now this time the reward isn't going to come from him. the reward is going to come from me throwing it in. But he's still going to be there, because what we're doing is we're gradually changing the picture the dog understands of this training exercise. And we don't want to remove him completely at once, because the dog will go, I don't get it. But we're changing it so the dog gradually understands that just because he's not there, doesn't mean I don't do the tunnel. So he's going to be stood there, he's going to do nothing, because I'm going to throw the toy in. But Pi can still see he's there. Ready? Tunnel. Hang on, come on, madam. She's still fixating on him, you see. She still thinks, oh, he's got a good source of food. Tunnel, tunnel, tunnel. Good girl. So see, that's the next step we've got to take. We've got to get him out of the picture. Good girl. Completely, but he's no longer assisting me. And that is how we take this step. At this stage, we're just building up gradually, gradually, gradually. Now, good girl. Now, once your dog is going through this tunnel pretty confidently and you've got your assistant out of the picture, that's when you can add your tunnel command. We don't want to add it when they're making mistakes, because then we achieve nothing. We want to add it. And how we're going to add it is we're going to have the dog starting to go through the tunnel and then say tunnel. So the dog's actually already doing the behaviour and then we say tunnel, because that way we're linking behaviour with word. And then we'd gradually be saying the word sooner, so the dog may be sitting there and we say tunnel ultimately. But we gradually bring back that process. So initially the dog starts to go, we say tunnel. Then the dog starts to go, we say tunnel sooner. And then eventually the dog can be sit there, we say tunnel, the dog takes the tunnel. And that is how we're going to build up and start having basic value for the tunnel. And before long, your dog will be utterly obsessed with the tunnel. So then we'll have to do the next step. Hope you've enjoyed this Everyday Canines video. If you have, you might subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you click the bell icon, that'll give you notifications of new videos coming out. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram, and I hope to see you all again very, very soon.